There's almost zero producers using these sounds for their beats, which is crazy to me. I'm gonna show you a hidden goldmine that you can use to make beats. So let me ask you, what is the greatest era of samples in your opinion? Some people might think it's the 80s, others might say it's the 70s, some maniacs might even say the 60s, but there's one era almost everyone ignores, and it's full of the greatest samples that no one's ever heard until now. But to show you this, well, I'm gonna have to travel through time. I've been keeping this a secret, but I have invented a time machine, and I think this is the best time to use it. Alright, I will see you friends on the other side. My god, it's actually worked. I've arrived in the era of the greatest samples. That's right, I'm talking about today. Most producers don't realize this yet, but modern music is full of some of the most insane samples just waiting to be flipped. And today, I'm gonna prove it to you. So first off, I'm gonna use this sample here. And as you can see, this song is from just 5 months ago. And this is one of those samples where just right off the bat in the intro, it's already really sampleable. And part of me just wants to loop this up and make a beat out of it, but that wouldn't be very entertaining. This is a YouTube video. I am a dancing monkey here for your entertainment. So let's try to use some more extreme sampling techniques, because anyone that knows me knows that I am extreme. So the first thing I want to do is pitch this way down. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I enjoy warmth in beats. So if you are also someone who enjoys warm beats, what you want to do is take your idea, your sample, whatever it may be, and push it so the dominant area is in the low mids. In this frequency zone over here. But a warning, this comes with its own unique challenges, as you can hear. If you repitch a sample to this extreme of a level, what might happen is the sounds in the sample might start sounding strange. Like the drums here, for example. So let's do some problem solving here. I could chop around the drums and figure out how to build a loop like that, or I could thank the Lord for the technology of stem splitting. Alright, so now these strange drum sounds are gone, so let's start chopping the sample up. And what I'm going to do is place my chops on the progression changes in the sample. Now once you do this idea, it can still be difficult to figure out how to use these chops and how to order them to make a loop that makes sense. So what I like to do is just listen to the chops one by one. And then I try to find two chops that sound like they work well with one another, which I think are these two here. So let's just make a loop out of these for now. The major thing that doesn't feel like it's working right now is the timing of these sounds within the chop, especially that guitar in the sample. If I turn on the metronome, you can hear just how off this is. So even though the progression of the keys within the sample are working, we still have some issues that we need to address. So what I'm gonna do is create a chop right here. And this will let me control the guitar timing within the sample. Let me adjust it a bit. And I also noticed that one of these chops in between here would work, so let's add that in as well. All right, the first bar is sounding good. Now let's address the second bar, which has the exact same issue here. So I'll add this chop here. Alright, so now not only do I have a progression that I like with the sample, I also fixed the timing of all the instruments, so now it's sounding good. I did notice that there is one other issue I want to address. Because I pitched the sample way down, now it's going to lose a lot of that brightness. And one way I'll fix this is by adding some static onto the loop. Here I'm using the Hex plugin, which has a noise generator, which I like. And what's also helpful about this plugin is that it degrades the quality of the sample, which is something that you might want to explore, especially when using modern samples, since a lot of them have a very clean sound to them since they use modern recording equipment. Some other plugins to do this is Reels. This is another go-to of mine. RC20 is probably the most popular plugin to do this, but I don't like what's popular. And I don't want to say why. Beyond the static noise, I also think an actual instrument in the high end might be a good idea as well. So I'm going to quickly search for some tambourine loops on my computer. Hopefully I got some that work here. And I think this one here actually might sound good. I do want to bring a little bit more randomness to the velocity to make it feel a little bit more real. But there is something else that I want to change with this tambourine loop. As of right now, you heard the tambourine hits don't feel like they fill up that much space in the beat. And so one way I can address this is by just stretching the sample out. Each tambourine hit feels like it lasts longer and it becomes more thick and therefore fills up more space in the beat. Having said that though, whenever you do some extreme stretching to very high-pitched, bright sounds like this, you'll notice that there's oftentimes this strange artifact feeling. It doesn't really feel natural anymore. And so to address this, I probably will have to pitch this down a slight bit. Alright, this sounds good to me. Now let's add some drums into this beat. I do have an idea, but it's basically to just rip off a J Dilla technique here. I'm gonna grab this hi-hat here. And in terms of the pattern that I'm gonna build, I don't necessarily need a constantly present hi-hat throughout my loop, a pattern like this, for example, and it's because I already have my tambourine filling up a lot of the high end. So because I have that tambourine loop, this affords me the opportunity to build something a little bit more unique. That's way too sloppy. Let's try that again. Let me make some slight adjustments here. And like I mentioned, you can see there are certain pockets where hi-hats aren't playing. And typically this might end up creating some dead pockets where the beat sounds way too empty. But because I have that tambourine loop playing, it's gonna be fine. Alright, it's very off kilter, so at this point I'm going to bring in my kick and my snare and create a very simple basic pattern here. You might feel like these patterns are too quantized. And the reason why I'm being so straightforward and on time is because the idea of context and the way I think about it is like this. If I asked you which of these things stands out here, you'd probably point to this one. But if we run this exact same experiment again, and I ask you which of these stands out to you, the answer is nothing really at this point. And it's the idea of context. If everything in your beat is sloppy and off-grid, at that point, technically speaking, nothing is off-grid because you haven't created any context. And so that's why it can be a good idea to be boring at times. Anyways, let's continue on with this beat. I think a bass line is next. And I could use my usual bass guitars here, but I actually kind of like the way the bass sounded in the actual sample itself. So let's try using that. I will isolate the bass using stem splitting and then turn on keyboard mode. So now I can play it like any other instrument. Next, let's figure out what notes are in the sample. So I'll use Note Grabber to map my sample out. And now let's use Note Grabber to test some ideas here. For example, if we just simply draw over this note and turn on preview, that sounds okay. What about this note after that? And then back down again here. That third note doesn't sound right. It does look like there's a faint note underneath there, so let's try that one. That actually sounds much better. So let's bring this into the beat next and hear how it sounds with this bass. Oh, let me delete these notes. I don't know about this first note here. Let's see if some other note works better. There's also a G sharp within the sample and a G, so let's try those. That doesn't sound quite right either, so let's try a G. No, that's not it either. I think maybe using both an A sharp and a G sharp might be the idea here. So if we start at a G sharp and then work our way to an A sharp. I like this much more. So now that we have this very basic fundamental bass line, I'm going to start building a little bit more detail in between these notes. I think maybe for the very end, adding a little bit more would be a good idea. Alright, at this point, the beat does feel like a full idea. I think maybe a small amount of detail would help. I have an idea to add a soft synthy sound. So I'm going to open up Massive. That doesn't fit. This sounds like it works perfectly, actually. The reason why a softer synth jumped out to me as a better idea here is because the beat's already pretty full, and so whatever I add will probably need to sit further in the back, which is exactly what soft synths are for. So I'm going to build a very simple idea with this sound. And I think this sound could use a little bit of movement. I could try using something like Shaper Box, but maybe I'll give Guitar Rig a try. And now let me grab this harp here and build this pattern. Now you might be thinking, what's the point of this sound? You can't even hear it, it's barely noticeable. But here's the thing. After watching so many YouTube videos of producers breaking down their beats, they're always saying things like, this small little sound here, this is what makes the beat so great, this small little detail that no one can even notice. And so that's why I added this sound, to gaslight you into thinking I'm a great producer. From here, I want to create a B version of this loop, so I'm going to use some of the chops that I haven't used so far. And then for this switch up, maybe I'll add some new drum ideas and build some different patterns around the sample too. And then this beat would switch back to the main idea. And that's pretty much it. So that is why I say modern samples are still very usable, and there is a plethora of treasure out there waiting for you. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If so, how about watching this one right next to me? It's equally as good, maybe better, maybe worse. I don't know you. I don't know what you like. You're probably going to watch My Little Pony videos after this. But if not, click the video next to me.